How's everybody feeling this evening? I love it. I love it. We're here for a really, really special event. I'm honored to be a part of this. My name is Chris Los, and we are here, as you can kind of see the sign over here, and you can see the bench over here that will be unveiling at the end of this little celebration, so you could all see it, commemorating the legacy of this man who served 30 plus years here in the city of Monrovia. 30 plus years given to this community in the city of Monrovia. He did it well, and so we're gonna honor him today. We have some really cool people. I'm excited to hear some of these stories and to kind of hear some behind the scenes. We'll all get to know Mr. Walker a little bit better as we leave this evening. But if I could have the city of Monrovia Mayor Becky Shevlin come on up to the podium at this time, along with a couple of our esteemed city council who's here. The podium is yours.
Well, thank you. So exciting to see everyone out this evening, and nice that it's not raining. Still chilly though. This has been the longest, chilliest winter I can remember. But Sergio Jimenez and our pro tem Larry Spicer, we are happy and proud to be here and represent on behalf of the city. And as electeds, we all had the honor and pleasure of being interviewed by Mr. Walker. And sometimes maybe, you it was a little nerve-wracking and maybe a little scary, but generally speaking, he was fair, and it all worked out in the end. So we all got elected. But Ralph was always out there and about, and we're so happy that he did contribute in that way, and always walking around with that mic and getting the latest and greatest in all your opinions. And want to say anything, Larry?
I just appreciate the times when, Ralph would interview me. I would be trying to hide when I see him coming, because he was a hardcore interviewer, but he was a good person,
Right.
and he was fair.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated everything.
You always wanted to be on his good side, especially if you're being interviewed. Sergio?
I make the example of being interviewed by Ralph, kind of like having a 60 Minutes van pull up to the front of your house. You would worry. I remember before the interview for the city council candidates, he took me aside and he says, "Come here, Larry." He says, Sergio, I like you, and I consider you a friend. I just want you to know that.
And you started shaking?
Yeah, I started shaking because this is before the interview, so I said, uh-oh, this is not a good sign. This is not a good sign. But as Becky said, he was fair. He was tough. He was fair. He asked the hard questions. There wasn't any softball underneath pitching with him. No, he got right to the point. And that's what we need in journalists. That's what we need nowadays, people who are willing to ask the hard questions. And he did that. We were blessed to have him here in Monrovia. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate you for being here.
It's one time in a debate, Ralph was the one asking the questions, and it was I want to say it was the second time around, but at any rate, he was saying he wanted to know how I got along or how I planned to really compete with the guys. I said, "What? You're really asking me that?" And I've always looked at myself as an equal, and the guys don't have anything on the gals. So there.
No comment.
We got the mic drop from the mayor right now.
Double no comment.
Thank you all. It's so cool to see the city council, the mayor of the town, acknowledging this great man. At this time, you kind of see KGM-TV here. You see Miss Barbara Golar over there. If you were wondering, yeah, she's got her own table. And what is this whole table over here with the QR codes? Well, the documentary, which you'll kind of get to know about a little bit later. You can grab tickets over there. along with donating to the Ralph Walker paid internship, which is being built. You're going to get a few more details on that too, to continue on his legacy of journalism, as you're hearing from the council, and what he did in honest journalism. I think it's something important that continues here, and you'll get to contribute and help in that way, with more details later. But right now, let me bring up the director of KGEM Television, David Palomares.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight and joining us in honoring our good friend and mentor, Ralph Walker. My name is, as you mentioned, David Palomares, the Executive Director of Community Media at the Foothills, KGEM TV. I first met Ralph while I was working with him as a cameraman back in 2011. The one thing I learned early on with Ralph was when you're with him, you better start recording right away, check your focus, and most importantly, make sure to keep up with him, because Ralph wasn't doing any second takes. It was just a one-time deal. He was live and direct, and he loved doing interviews, lots of them. So when you went with Ralph, by the end, you were exhausted, and so was he. But yeah, it was quite an experience to work with him. One of my favorite memories as a cameraman was when Ralph interviewed candidate Gavin Newsom when he was here running for governor. And Ralph's very first question was, "I hear your wife works for Fox News." I've never seen anyone's face turn red so quickly as Gavin Newsom's. And he nervously laughed and he said, "Oh, no, that's my ex-wife." Ralph already knew that. But he was letting Newsom know, "I'm a citizen journalist for a local public access channel, KGEM TV, and I don't answer to no corporate media. So you better buckle up." That was Ralph. Ralph had a great sense of humor, and he did a lot of research. Whenever he shot anything in the studio, he was ready, and many times he would share objects or collages of pictures and memorabilia that he created. He spent countless hours scheduling, researching, preparing for the interviews before he stepped into the studio. He treated our time and all of our staff with great respect and with kindness. He always made sure to show his appreciation to everybody. He went around thanking everyone for everything we did. Recently, we were interviewing one of Ralph's childhood friends, Zaruk, which I know he's here somewhere. I just saw him. There he is. And for our upcoming documentary, Godfather of KGEM, which we'll be talking about shortly. And I learned that in their very young days, he and Ralph would go to the local library before they would even open. And they would go there and wait to be able to check out all the books that they could. And they were there anticipating the opening of the library because they love books. And they had a lifelong love of books, and something that they shared to this, well, till recently. They always would talk about books, and it was part of their formation as young men. But we all knew this at KGEM based on the shows he devoted so much time to, such as Authors, and he worked with groups like Monrovia Reads, and of course the Monrovia Library. For Ralph, books were like opening up a window to the world. And for many years, Ralph would mention that he would love to have a bench with his name on it here in the library. He would just kind of, "Yeah, I'd like to have one there. That'd be kind of nice." It would be a place where people could check out books and come and sit down on his bench and enjoy one of the things he loved best. When Ralph started his battle with cancer, several people reached out to the city, including Chris Lose, to see about getting him a bench at the time. When I called and said I was from KGEM, before I said anything, they said right away, "Is this about Ralph's bench?" So when Community Services told me this bench was available right over here, near the library, so people can check out their books and go sit there and read, and in front of one of Monrovia's most iconic trees, which is this beautiful tree here, It's been used many times to represent Monrovia. I knew that Ralph would be really happy. So this bench is for you, Ralph. I come by here every morning, every day on our morning walks, and I say hi to Ralph. Get up and get involved is what he would say, and that's what you'll see on the bench when we unveil it. So this is for Ralph. So thank you. Good job, David.
Thank you, David. His love for books was real. And I went into the library to leave a flyer for the event today, and everybody in there was just so excited. Annette, I saw her earlier. She's still here. She works at the library. She was like, "Oh, Ralph? Oh, yeah. Like, we put it wherever you want." It was love. It was the red carpet treatment for Mr. Walker here. And I love that it's right here at the library. I do at this time want to bring up someone from MAD Town Council, Terrence Williams, to share a few words as well.
Good evening. I'm here representing along with Town Councilman Mr. Wright. Wave your hand, because you'll never see him in front of a mic. But it was truly a blessing. I've had the opportunity to serve on the Monrovia School Board from 2013 to 18, where I served as president. And as a black man, I'm from the South, so I speak my heart. I was encouraged by Ralph, intimidated, challenged to be involved. I never forget him telling me, make sure you look out for those kids and make sure you take care of people who look just like you. And I said, man, come on, I can't do that, man. But I didn't understand what he was really saying until my second year. And then I realized what he was saying. Be the representation that Monrovia deserve, who happens to be black. I received that. I also serve in a capacity at Second Baptist Church along with Councilman Spicer. I served as the church clerk there for 23 years. Ralph and David has always been at Second Baptist. We're talking about Colonel Allensworth, the monument, you remember that? We're talking about the edification of our new building. David and Ralph was there when we was breaking down bricks. It just humbles me as a Christian for a man that had the alarming audacity to get in my face about everything, you know, and get involved, be involved, let them see you. We ain't stupid. But I understand what he was saying, because I grew up with parents like that you have to leave the house and represent your family. But to the family, as a man of African-American descent who served as a leader in this community, Ralph Walker meant more to me than a lot of people that I worked with, because he stayed in my face about what I'm supposed to be doing and who I am. And I will never forget that old man. Little bitty dude just come up and say, man, well, you ain't here? I'm on the phone. Well, I'm at home. Well, you ain't here? I know what that means. So I got there. And so, but really, I don't want to belittle the thing, but it's just important for me to look at their family and tell you that because of your husband, I had to keep it real. And it made me a better representative of the Monrovia city. God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. If I could have longtime friend Susie Ling come up at this time.
This is so special, special. Ralph would love this. All his buddies, all his friends right here in Monrovia. So thank you everyone for being here together. And his family too, you know, how special is that? One of the first times I met Ralph was over there in the summer concert. And some of you know, Ralph actually got some serious dance moves, right? You know, little guy has some kick.
And then I interviewed him right under this banyan tree. And so this is his home away from home next to his books, right? And where he can really watch Monrovia, right? He loves us. He loved watching us. Of course, he loved his family and his friends too. And we thank you very much for being here with us today. We will always cherish Ralph in our hearts. We really will. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. I do also want to thank the committee from Ms. Barbara Golar, David Palomares, Reina Delgado, Joel Fox as well. Because what you're seeing was a group effort of folks trying to figure it all out. And then, of course, Rachel came along to represent for the family in those committee meetings. So we got to have proper representation from the Walker family. But, yeah. And if I could have at this time, longtime friend Joel Fox come and share a few words with us.
I don't think I can be any more eloquent than the people that have spoken already. Everybody in attendance has a connection with Ralph, maybe as his work, through his work with his career, or his hundreds and hundreds of hours of volunteering for KGEM, community activism, as a friend or a family member. Myself, I'm a long-term friend. I was probably friends with Ralph for about 40 years. We met when he was working at a company in purchasing at DataTape, and we did a lot of things together. I had a connection. I was teaching adult school, and there was a lady in our class, my class, that was Nelson Mandela's niece. So we got invited, along with the KGEM cameraman, to events from his days at volunteering for the Black and Latino bookstore, where he arranged luminaries such as Muhammad Ali, Rosa Parks for book signings. And then together with the KGEM cameraman, we went to events with the South African Consulate Independence Day celebration. We met Mervyn Dimely, Willem de Klerk, which is FW's son. He was a diplomat at the time. We went to First AMA Church together. That place really rocked out. I was ready to convert after that. I mean, but Reverend Cecil Murray in his office, Lieutenant Governor Bustamante in his office, we met these people. And then we went to a gathering for the Ambassador Zendisi Mandela, Nelson's daughter. And of course, Ralph's interview with Desmond Tutu. So Ralph was so significant in the community and so significant with people. He was a tireless educator, a tireless learner, a tireless community activist, and a tireless communicator. He just was out there. He was just such a special guy. When I sat down to write this, sitting on my desk, it just so happened there was a meditation, and it was entitled Kind Heart. And I said, isn't that appropriate? I'm sitting down to write something about Ralph, and if anybody had a kind heart, Ralph had a kind heart. We formed this committee to work on this event and to show our respects to Ralph with the bench, etc. And we're establishing a paid internship in Ralph's honor. It's the Ralph Walker paid internship, and basically it's for high school student, senior, junior, to work at KGEM on a project, work with the community. And, Ralph, 30 years producing, interviewing, and this internship's for juniors in Monrovia and Duarte interested in journalism, communication, social justice, and broadcasting. Ralph's whole life was spent with the community, with the young, supporting education, and supporting community media. And he just will never be forgotten. So Barbara's over there, and anybody that wants to make a donation, there's a GoFundMe account, Ralph Walker Paid Internship, and there's a PayPal account. So this will go to a worthy student in the neighborhood. Thank you for listening.
Thanks so much, Joel. It's super cool being here because, like, Mr. Walker and I would joke about a bench in Monrovia, and he would always tell me, "They're not gonna give me no bench, Chris." I was like, "Man, look, I'll pull one up, get a stool or something, man. We'll work it out. We'll get it right." So I know he's tickled tremendously by this moment. Yeah, just being right here is really special. If I could have the chair of the board of directors for the community media of the Foothills, Reina Delgado.
Good evening, and thank you to the Walker family, to Mayor Becky, to City Council members, to community media of the Foothills, to our Executive Director, David Palomares, to Team KGEM, working the cameras, Michael, Chris, and Gabe, and to our Board of Directors. We've got Doug McComb and Barbara Golar, and to all the friends of the Ralph Walker family and friends. Please know that your presence here today adds a meaningful resonance, honoring Ralph because each and every one of you is seen and is appreciated. Collectively, we are a powerful reflection of what it means to be in community. As the chair of CMF, please accept my heartfelt gratitude for your support. Ralph was an avid volunteer, a producer, a KGEM's most prolific and longest running on-air television show host. My guess is he appeared on KGEM hundreds of times over his 30-plus years of being a proactive volunteer. To CMF Community Media, Ralph is the godfather of KGEM. He is family. Many of you here today share Ralph's passion to serve, to be of service, to share your gifts broadly and indiscriminately with energy, compassion, and a volunteer's heart. Ralph knew that becoming a volunteer requires a great deal of inner strength. It requires the courage to reveal a willingness to learn in public. What I learned from Ralph's commitment to public access television was that being a volunteer means that you use your presence to teach what you learn, to share stories, and by having enough courage to ask the important questions about our collective humanity. To me, Ralph's shows demonstrated why teaching civic culture is so important and vital. He realized the connection between people is a powerful force. A force for communication, a force for community building, a force for understanding one another, a force evidenced here today by your very presence. Ralph devoted much of his life to being a social justice advocate. And for more information on that, you'll want to check out our documentary, The Godfather of KGEM, on May 7th here at the Look Cinema. So lastly, I ask you, dear friends, how best may we carry on the good works of Mr. Ralph Walker's legacy?
Thank you, Reina. It's been interesting hearing everybody kind of share how getting involved was something he was passionate about. Where do you fit in? Where can you get involved? How can you get involved? So I definitely would love everybody here to hold on to that, figure it out for yourself, what it looks like, where that fits. It's not the same. Not everybody can do what Mr. Walker did. We can clearly know that. There was nobody like this gentleman right here that we are here to honor tonight. But there's somewhere that you can impact. And I know that that's the ripple effect of his presence here with us on this rock. So find that if you can. And if you don't and know how to figure that out, there's simple ways like helping with the paid internship. Even Back to the Youth was big for him. And that was the reason for this. This will continue on in journalism and empowering young people the way that he loved to do it. So at this time, I would love to introduce the queen of the evening, a woman who shared her husband with us for 30 plus years, Miss Judy Walker. And I believe she's going to be joined by family, along with daughters Rashida, Miriam, and Rachel as well.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank my family and friends, including Madam Mayor, council members, Chris and Joel. I'm humbled and honored to be a part of this tremendous tribute to my dear departed husband of 46 years of marriage. To Ralph, I call him Barack. A year before he got ill with a diagnosis of cancer, he wondered to me, what is my legacy? What would it be? Well, Barack, here it is. A plaque in your name. And I know that he's smiling from heaven. And God is saying, well done, my faithful servant. Barack was an activist from his youth in Chicago, advocating for a person of color to teach in the high school. He was thinking of others before himself. He touched many lives, including working with the Buddhist Compassionate Society in the 90s to help with aid to, I believe it was Peru, that was shaken by an earthquake. And he marched with the Buddhists to help the citizens. Finally, he had a beautiful spirit, father figure to many of our girls' friends, and a refuge to friends and family. I could go on and on about the lives he touched, but thank you so much. Thank you for the support you have given us. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Mrs. Walker. If I could have Mrs. Walker and y'all come over here to the bench at this time. But let's pull that thing back on 3, 2, 1. And there it is. Thank you all so much for being here. Please spend some time hanging, sharing stories. I can't wait to walk around and hear a few stories right now. Also wanted to thank City Manager Dylan for the support in making this event possible. Appreciate you.
I am Amira Lucas Savage, and I am the granddaughter of legend Mr. Ralph Walker. And his bench just got unveiled, and we will be talking to the people that have known him best. I'm here with
Terrence Williams.
What was your best memory with Mr. Ralph Walker?
I got a few, but my fondest memory is him standing in front of me and telling me who I was. as American of African descent and to represent well. And I remember that vividly, him telling me that. You know, he said, man, I don't care about all that other mess, just represent well. And if you represent well, you'll be a board member who happens to be black. And I remember that for the rest of my life.
And where exactly did you meet Mr. Ralph Walker?
At Rec Park in 1996. I was sitting there playing dominoes, and he was over there going, what you doing? Where you come from? And we had talked about my raising from Dallas and my aunt, who was a Black Panther, and we used to talk about that a lot.
It was nice talking to you. Have a good rest of your night.
You're welcome.
Oh, I love Mr. Walker. I met Mr. Walker in 1981, and he is such a kind-hearted person. He will give you the shirt of his band, and he is always welcoming you and asking if you're okay and the things like that. He was indeed a gentleman, and he always gave me avocados.
I'm here with.
Sergio Jimenez, Monrovia City Council member.
Okay, so I've been going around asking the people that knew him best, and I have a question for you. I was wondering, what changes did my grandfather, Mr. Ralph Walker, want to see that you have fulfilled?
I think that one of the big changes, and we talked about when he was interviewing me when I was running for Monrovia City Council, I said, change is coming to Monrovia. And he says, well, what change? I said, look at who's running for city council. It's going to be the most diverse city council in Monrovia's history with people of color. For the first time in the history of Monrovia, 3 out of the 5 council members are people of color. And he was very much into representation, that every segment of society be represented, that every member of society have a shot at the American dream. So that's one of the things that he was really high on, and I feel that I helped fulfill.
And how exactly did you go out to fulfill those?
Well, let me tell you, the best part about being a Monrovia City Council member is the following. I was a student here in Monrovia when I started kindergarten at Brad Oaks Elementary School. I spoke no English whatsoever, and it was very hard. There was no bilingual education, no special teachers. It was a struggle. Now I've gone back to that same school that I was a student at, Brad Oaks Elementary School, to speak to the students. And I've had a chance to speak to students in both languages, English and Spanish, including students that only speak Spanish. By doing that, I feel I'm setting a role model for those young people to see that people that are similarly situated as they are can make it in society. They can make it here in Monrovia, and then Monrovia is a representative city.
Thank you for your time. It was nice speaking with you.
Thank you so much.
I'm here with.
Chris Los.
I've been going around asking people questions, and I have a couple questions for you. So, when did you first meet Mr. Ralph Walker?
Let's see, it's 2023. I'm going to say it was about 4, maybe 5 years ago.
And what exactly was that experience like?
Let me think. We got connected through Melissa Taylor, and she just said, you need to meet Ralph, and so I talked to him, and talking to him that first time, it just felt like I was talking to my uncle, and it just turned into more of a friendship, and we were just that, and then it grew into a mentorship, and yeah, I would say that's how it kind of happened.
Mr. Ralph Walker has made a big impact on many people's lives, and I was just wondering, what impact has he made on your life exactly?
Amir, he changed everything for me. He made me understand and believe that I can do things that I really didn't believe I could do. Like, I wouldn't host any television shows. Like, I did radio. So television was like a whole different world. But learning from him, it just gave me a different understanding of what it means to be an activist. And it also showed me simple ways that you can get involved in figuring out like what it is that you want to say it. But the impact he made in my life in that 4 or 5 years is probably larger than anybody I can even think of.
How are you going to use what he has told you and what he has built on you, and how are you going to use that to continue your path?
So I'm going to host these shows, and I want to do it from the space of truth. I want to talk about things that mean something. I want to talk about how we can be a better community. I want to work to get more people active, because it's everybody. It takes a community, and it just takes you to get active. So I'm going to find every way that I can, and even more so now because of him.
Thank you for talking with me.
Absolutely. So Amira, now I'm going to grab the mic from you and ask you a question.
Okay.
How cool is it getting to do this, knowing that this is something your grandfather used to do?
Super cool. Actually, I have a story for you. So me and my grandpa, we used to play like this game where he had this like little back office, and he had like a keyboard and like a little setup. And so we used to play office, and sometimes I would like take his job and I would pretend to like interview him, and then we would like go around and pass mail to people and interview different people in the house. So I think it's like, I'm just happy to know that I am able to do something that he liked to do and just like feel the experience and go through that.
You're doing a great job. So I'm going to give you the mic back now.
Thank you. I'm here with
David Palomares.
And I've been walking around asking a couple people questions, and I'm just going to ask you a couple questions yourself, okay? What was it like working with Mr. Ralph Walker?
Well, working with Ralph Walker was always a fun adventure. You never knew what you were going to get. So every time that we went out to shoot something, he would always be looking around, trying to figure out the next person he was going to interview. He came up with really creative and fun questions. I remember one time we were doing a treasure unveiling, and we ended up at the cemetery because there was a lead about somebody that he wanted to go and find out about. So there we were with Steve Baker, who was the city treasurer at the time, and he's also the historian. And it was just always an adventure going out with Ralph. He was a wonderful person to work with, and he had a big heart.
He did. What was the biggest impact Mr. Ralph Walker had on your life?
I think he really was an educator at heart, and there's a lot of things that I didn't understand what it was like to be an African American growing up in the United States, and it really opened up my eyes. And I'd always heard things, but to hear it from his perspective, explaining things, it was eye-opening, and it was an education. I have a lot more sensitivity and understanding of what it's like, and he really was a teacher. And as we make this documentary about his life, we continue to learn lessons from him. He talks to people and makes them share things that, a lot of times you're amazed that he got things out of them. And the stories that he tells are really important because we need to learn from our past. And truth and reconciliation is one of the most important things that I think he was very much involved with. Owning up to our past and making things right and then growing from them. So yeah, that was the main thing.
Mr. Ralph Walker, he was a very smart man. And so I just want to know one piece of information you will keep with you for the rest of your life.
I think one of the things that he always used to say was get up and get involved. And I think that'll always stay with me. And his kindness and he used to say a lot of things like amazing or interesting. You know, he had all these Ralphisms that we always joke about. But in the end, it was just his kindness, and he was a really decent human being who gave a lot to the community and to other human beings. He always reached out to people, was very loving. So that's the thing I take away for myself. He's one of the finest human beings I've ever met. So, and congratulations, because he's your grandpa. So he comes from good blood.
Yeah. And how did Mr. Ralph Walker make an impact on you doing that?
Mr. Ralph Walker made a huge impact. First and foremost, his on-screen presence really touched my heart, and it meant a lot to me as a woman, as a person of color, to see a gentleman, person of color, get out there and use his persona in service of the community.
Mr. Ralph Walker had a great personality, and he was a funny man. So I just want to know, what was your fondest memory of him?
Oh, that's a hard one, but I would say it was when he revealed to me, he came over to my house one time, and we were having a small get-together, and he came over, and I discovered that he was a gardener. And he started looking at some plants that I had at the home and asking if he might have a snippet here and a snippet there. And I was so happy to share that with him and our love of gardening that he left with a shopping bag full of plants.
Thank you so much for talking with me. It's nice to meet you.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Mara.
Thank you. That's a wrap for tonight, but I'm sitting here at the bench for Mr. Ralph Walker. And come here. Get a book. Sit here. Read for a little bit. In honor of the man, the myth, the legend.